Continuing our previews around the BC Hockey League, up next is the Vernon Vipers, joined right now by the assistant coach for the Vipers. It is Kevin Krause. Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
No problem, Brian. Thanks for having me.
So when it came to putting together this year's edition of the Vernon Vipers, what sort of holes in your roster were yourself and head coach GM Mark Vernon there looking to fill?
You know, I think after the year that we had last year, it was obviously a disappointing year in our eyes. So, you know, we wanted to address every single position. And, you know, I think we did a good job at doing that this year. I think all three positions have totally been revamped.
So when it comes to piecing the Vernon Vipers together overall, is there an organizational philosophy there? Like, what's the recruiting game for your team?
You know, I think this year, I mean, last year was tough. We only had 5 returning players, so it was tough to kind of get a good culture going. And, you know, this year we returned, I think, about close to 10. So, you know, it was nice to have, you know, a core group of guys come back that knew what, you know, myself and Mark and Kevin wanted to do. So, you know, I felt like we did that. We went out and kind of tried to recruit, you know, a bit more puck-moving defensemen. And, you know, mostly I would say character players. You know, we wanted to get kids that are willing to come in and listen and work hard and compete for a championship. You know, we don't want guys that are just going to be on their own page and just come in for a year and then take off. So, you know, I think that's one thing we wanted to recruit in was good kids, and I feel like we've done that this year.
5-game playoff series for your team last year. Obviously, you don't come away in that series. What did you guys learn from last season, and is there anything that did you recognize that you needed to change in terms of style or philosophy or anything like that?
You know, we lost to a pretty good team there in Penticton. I would say, you know, number 1 team ranked in the nation, you know, going into playoffs. And, you know, I felt like we were fairly close in most of those games. So the one thing that kind of got away from us was our discipline. And, you know, when you face a team like Penticton that has such a potent power play, you know, you can't be in the box the whole game. So, you know, one thing that I think you can take from that is, you know, our discipline needs to be a lot better. We still want to play a physical game. You know, I think hockey still can be a physical sport, and that's one thing we want to do is wear teams down. But just maybe be a little bit smarter with taking penalties and maybe just keeping our mouth shut a little bit more. But, you know, overall it was, you know, we didn't think that we would really take them, but at the same time, you know, if we maybe would have played a little bit smarter, we could have.
Obviously a rabid fan base there in Vernon. What can the fans expect from your club this year compared to the last?
You know, I think we're going to be a younger, fast-paced team. You know, I don't think we have a veteran-laden lineup, but at the same time, we think we got, you know, a pretty mobile, skilled group on the back end and a pretty physical, hard-working front end. So, you know, I think it's going to be an exciting team to watch, you know, on the scoreboard and on the hit count. So,
obviously, season hasn't started just yet, but what would you say if you could pinpoint one thing is the strength of this team right now?
I'd say our speed. You know, I think we really got a good decor that can get the puck into our forwards' hands and then, you know, attack with speed. You know, I think we had a bit of a trouble last year getting the puck into some of our forwards' hands and didn't quite see the potential of some of them. You know, this year I think we're going to be able to get them the puck a lot more and be a big transition team.
You talked about not necessarily returning a lot of players, but you do have a good core of veteran players coming back this season. Overall, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing your squad?
You know, I would say possibly our youth, you know, and experience. We did decide to go with 2 17-year-old goaltenders. So, you know, obviously that's going to be something that needs to be proven. You know, but we're very confident with those 2 young men in net. And, you know, I think we just have to there's a lot of kids on our team that are going to have to find their way in their league the first 10, 15 games. But, you know, from the looks of it and what we saw in training camp and what we saw from our guys in preseason, it's going to be a group that I think can transition very well into the BCHL. Obviously,
it's really easy to look at the guys that led your team in scoring last season who are returning. Like when you think of some of the players that are back with your team, you look at a guy like Jimmy Lambert who had 33 points. You know, that guy's kind of a no-brainer when it comes to someone who you think might take a bit of a leap in terms of points this year. Do you have any other returning players on your roster that maybe last season flew under the radar a little bit or maybe didn't see an elevated role that this season you guys there are really expecting big things from?
Yeah, I mean, I think Christian Craigford had a pretty good year last year. You know, we expect another big year out of him. You know, he's got a big 19-year-old power forward. I think Riley Brandt up front is really going to take a leap this year. You know, he he's going to play a big role in our leadership this year. So look to him to add a little bit more offense. Brett Stapley, when he comes off his injury, as a 17-year-old, we expect big things from him. He looked really good in camp and preseason. Maybe a guy like Mitch Oliver on the back end to have another big year. So, and then, Jagger Williamson going into what could be his last year of junior hockey. It'll be his third year in the league. Hopefully he can, go out with a big year.
When you've got those players returning, how important is it to have those guys coming back? And you alluded to it a little bit earlier in terms of what you're looking for for a Vernon Vipers player when it comes to recruiting. But how important is it to have those guys back that know the expectations, that know yourselves as the coaching staff and are familiar with the systems there and the community and everything that goes along with it?
I think it's huge. In junior A hockey, there's so much turnover because kids leave early to school and, they're possibly not ready to come in at 16. So, they're only getting about 2-year, maybe 3-year max at a junior career in this league. And, the previous 2 seasons we've had, I think each year, 5 returning players from the previous team. So it's nice to have at least 10 guys come in that know what to expect from the coaching staff and know what to expect from the fans. And, it's huge. There's a lot of familiarity there, and they can pass that along to the young kids right away.
With what you've seen through training camp and now through the preseason and just ahead of the season opening, is there already a personality with this team of the Vernon Vipers based on recruits and guys you brought in with trades and your returning players, or is it a bit early to say?
No, I think this group is really, really eager to get the season going, and they want to win. I think at times last year our team maybe didn't know how to win. From the kids that we brought in kids from good programs that know how to win. So, I think this group has a little bit of a different swagger coming into the rink every day. And, I wouldn't say they're cocky, but they're confident, and that's what we want. We want them to go out and play with confidence and win hockey games and not play to lose.
You talked about those returning players in the playoff series against Penticton, and obviously, like you said, the V's very good squad. Is there a chip on the shoulder, though, for those returning guys?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think 3 of them at least lost to Penticton now twice in a row in playoffs. So, it's definitely when we do face Penticton, it's a team that we want to beat every night. But, I think our division is so tough that there's going to be a rivalry with every team in our league. And, every time we have a divisional game, those are, basically 4-point games that we're going to need to win. So it's nice to have, a good core group of guys that know what to expect going into some of those games.
A lot of people would look at the fact that you bring in 2 17-year-old goaltenders in Cole Demers and Ty Taylor and think, what the heck are you doing? What was it about those 2 guys that made them stand out against every other goaltender you had in camp?
You know what first of all, they stopped the puck, just as well as any other goalie. But, if you get to know the kids and get their demeanor on the ice, neither one of them seem like they're 17-year-old kids. They both play with a lot of poise back there. They both were top goalies in their league that they came from last year. So, we decided to go into this year trying to build, don't really want to say a pipeline for that position, but, a position that maybe we don't have to worry about for 3 years. So,
one last thing before I let you run, Kevin. What does it mean to be a Vernon Vipers player?
I think you gotta play with pride. We are the most winning the winningest national junior A program in the nation. So I think to put on that jersey every night, you kind of have an expectation to move on what we've done in the past, and I think that should be worn with pride.
All right, Kevin Krause, the assistant coach of the Vernon Vipers, looking ahead to the 2016-17 season. Kevin, thanks very much for doing this, and best of luck this season with the Vipers.
Thank you very much.